Okay, so I've adjusted the volume a little bit so me better. Switch to busy. We were busy with motivational theories. I like to look at things from a picture point of view, and there's on your CD you'll see there's a very nice uh, summary, but worked backwards, or actually not even backwards. It's all dear Makar. But from a point of view of where we are, we've just looked at Taylor's scientific theory, the economic man, and we've looked at Mayer, the human relations theory, and now we're looking at Maslow and the hierarchy of needs. So Maslow says basically every human being has a physical, safety, social, esteem, which is recognition, and self actualization, which is reaching the full potential, needs to be met. So, on those 5 levels, that was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, if you had to look at the next guy who came around, and in the book it does it quite nicely in a very sequential way, and it looked at Hertzberg. Now, Hertzberg has a two-factor theory. So, based on his research, all he did with 200 professional qualified workers, his conclusions have become one of the more famous theories to be built on today. Not only is he very recent, but he's very, very clear and concise theory. So his research, after he laid down these interviews and questionnaires with these 200 employees, he discovered two things. And they're two factors which an employee has. One, obviously, what allows them to have good feelings about their jobs, and two, which allows them to have negative feelings about their jobs. So, how does this work? Basically, job satisfaction and job dissatisfaction. What he later termed was the motivator factors and then the hygiene factors. So let's first have a look at the hygiene factors. So job dissatisfaction was a result of 5 main factors which made you not feel good about a company or where you're working. And that was the company policy and admin. Oh, I hate admin. I don't know about you guys. Supervision. If there sometimes it's supervision is needed because something goes wrong, who do you blame? And sometimes too much supervision is a bad thing. Salary is important. You can never earn enough. Relationship with others. There has to be some sort of relationship. That's that social need of Maslow once again. And then, of course, the working conditions, which the previous theory around Mayo we discussed. Okay, so these factors were quite important, and they were factors that surround the job itself, the intrinsic and extrinsic factors. So the intrinsic factors was the job itself, and the extrinsic factors were the jobs surrounding, or the factors surrounding the job. So Hertzberg considered these hygiene factors have to be addressed for management to prevent dissatisfaction. However, if they were not in place, then people would be immediately dissatisfied. But if they were in place, doesn't mean they would necessarily be motivated. So to create a very well motivated workforce, you needed to have the motivator factors as well. And these were achievement, very important. You'll see that from the previous theories as well. Recognition for the achievement. In other words, putting a car together and then being recognized that you actually were able to put the car together. And then the work itself, okay, I really enjoy putting this car together. And then responsibility, if something goes wrong, then I'm to blame, and then the advancement. And these factors called the motivator factors. So that's the two-factor theory. How does that apply today in business? Basically, pay and working conditions can be improved, and that'll help remove dissatisfaction from work. But they will not on their own provide conditions for motivation. Hertzberg argued that it's possible to encourage someone to do their job by paying them. He called this movement. However, movement does not mean that somebody wants to do the job. That would require motivation. So motivation to do the job and to do it well would only exist if motivator factors were in place. Hertzberg did not claim that pay does not matter, but it moves people to do a job and does not motivate them. So, movement versus motivation. The next important thing, and this is quite an important term, so please pay attention and research it a little bit further. So the motivators need to be in place for workers to be prepared to work willingly and to do it to their best of their ability. But he suggested that it would and could provide a principle of job enrichment. That is where 3 features of job enrichment were adopted, then the workers will be motivated. 1, completion of work. Typical production methods leave workers to assemble one small part of the finished product. This is not rewarding and can be boring and repetitive and prevent workers from appreciating the importance of what they're doing as part of the overall production system. Hertzberg argued that the complete and identifiable units of work should be assigned to workers, and that this might involve teams of workers rather than individuals of workers. The completion of units of work could be whole sub-assemblies of manufactured goods, such as a complete engine assembly line in a car plant. In service industries, it could be a small team of multi-skilled people, such as waiters, chefs, and technicians for IT video equipment. Examples: provide all the conference facilities in a hotel or business conference rather than many people doing just one small or relatively unimportant task before moving on to another part of the hotel. If you want people motivated to do a good job, give them a good job to do, is very good advice. Then feedback on performance. This type of communication could give recognition for work well done and can also provide incentives to achieve more. A range of tasks. So this is all about job enrichment, remember? Okay, so feedback on performance, a range of tasks to give challenge, and to stretch the individual. A range of tasks could be given, some which may be at least initially beyond the worker's current experience, and challenge them, stretch them. This is quite a large measurement, ties in with the self-actualization theory of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Then, thirdly, this is now the consequences, right, of Maslow's hierarchy. A business can offer higher pay, improved working conditions, and less heavy-handed supervision of work. This could all help to remove dissatisfaction, but they would all be quickly taken for granted if work is not interesting, rewarding, or challenging. Then workers will not be satisfied or motivated to offer their full potential, whatever the pay level is that are offered to them. Okay, so dissatisfaction, hygiene factors need to be addressed first, and then have motivating factors. So why was this guy so important, Hertzberg? So although other researchers have used Hertzberg's method and failed to arrive at such clear-cut conclusions, there's little doubt that the results he drew from his work had a significant impact on business practices today. Team working is now much more widespread, very important, with whole units of work being delegated to these groups. Workers tend to be much more responsible, that's right, responsible for the quality of their work rather than being closely supervised by quality control inspectorates. Most firms are continually looking for ways to improve effective communication and group meetings, allowing two-way communications wherever possible. Okay, so basically, as a summary, job enrichment aims to use the full capabilities of the workers to give them the opportunity to do more challenging and fulfilling work. Right, and then there's an activity there that you guys can go through. Then McClellan came around and he introduced motivational theory needs, or needs theory, motivational needs theory. Everybody needs to be motivated. And he wrote a book. But basically, it's about achievement motivation, authority, power motivation, and then, of course, affiliation motivation. Let's start with affiliation motivation. A person will need to be affiliated to the strong driver or motivator that he has a need with friendly relationships and motivated towards interacting with other people. That's why you choose the friends you choose, because there's an affiliation. You feel like there's a strong driver towards that person or that group. These people tend to be good team members, and they need to be liked and popular to be held high in regard. So not everybody is affiliation motivated. Some people are authority or power motivated. This is a person with the dominance or need to have authority and be motivated. The desire to control others is a powerful motivating force. The need to be influential, to be effective, to have an impact. There's a strong leadership instinct with authorities gained over others. So some people are motivated by that, and it brings to them in their mind status or prestige. Achievement motivation. These people are motivated by the achievement of the task, and as long as it's a realistic and challenging goal, they then are motivated. There is a constant need for feedback regarding this process and achievement, and a need of sense of accomplishment always. They are results-driven attitude and always have a common characteristic of successful people and entrepreneurs. Right, so basically process theories, there are many, but it's outside of the gamut of this book. But process theories are emphasizing how and why people choose certain behaviors in order to meet their personal goals. And that is through the thought process of that influential behavior. So we're going to do one that's covered in this book, and that is by a guy by the name of Vroom. In 1932 he was born, and he suggests that individuals choose to behave in ways that they believe will lead to outcomes they value. So they will only act in the way that their values are. His expectancy theory states that individuals have different sets of goals and can be motivated if they believe that there is a positive link between the effort and performance. Okay, effort and performance, keywords, and a favorable performance will result in a desirable reward. The reward will satisfy an important need, and the desire to satisfy the need is strong enough to make the work effort worthwhile. So his expectancy theory was based on three things: valence, expectancy, and instrumentality. So let's start with instrumentality again. Instrumentality is the confidence an employee has that they will actually get what they desire, even if it has been promised by the manager. 2. Expectancy, the degree that people believe putting effort into work will lead to a given level of performance. And then the last one, valence, is the depth that the employee wants the extrinsic reward. That is, not the job itself, but the things around the job, such as money, or an intrinsic reward, which is basically just job satisfaction. I enjoy or like what I do. So even though these conditions or beliefs is missing, Vroom argued that workers will not have the motivation to do the job well. Therefore, according to Vroom, managers should try to ensure that employees believe that the increased work effort will improve performance, and the performance will lead to valued rewards, and valued is the important factor there. Motivational theories, how useful are they? Basically, they provide us a starting point and a framework for analyzing and discussing main motivational issues. The research undertaken has been criticized for the lack of rigor and follow-up work. Yet the basic idea that has been covered in this chapter we've talked about and evaluated. Okay, so they're basically saying let's not dwell too much on it, but the key point here is a well-motivated workforce is essential for long-term business success. Motivating workers is an important function of management, and without this, long-term values are unlikely to be created for the business. Okay, so motivation in practice. So basically, very few people are prepared to work without some sort of financial reward, although a considerable number of charity workers should not be overlooked. Pay is necessary to encourage work effort. All theorists recognize this. The disagreements, particularly between Taylorite, the scientific theory, views, and others, is over whether pay is sufficient to generate motivation and how pay should be calculated. If pay is accepted as being insufficient to ensure the worker and they're motivated to work, then their full potential can't be achieved. So therefore, other non-financial methods must be considered to motivate people. So it's quite obvious that we can promote motivation within as a basic factor so they can pay their bills. Then the unit cost would fall and competitiveness would increase. There are many links between how work is organized to boost motivation, and the style of management and organizational structure would be different from business to business. So basically, payment or financial rewards are built on hourly or time-based wage rates, piece rates, a monthly or weekly salary, commission, as is the case on most salespeople, and performance-related pay and bonuses, completing the tasks on time. For example, if you're building a ship, you want to make sure that all those parts of the ship are on time, that something doesn't cause the other part to be delayed. Profit sharing, shares in a business, and then fringe benefits, which basically cover things like other workers or employees would prefer to have a car allowance, versus others wouldn't want a car allowance. They'd rather just have a bigger salary and pay more tax. And that's where we get fringe benefit tax. So time-based rate is quite straightforward. The most common way of paying is manually, where there's manual labor, and they basically just get paid for the job, for the hours that they've worked. Who do you think gets paid the most per hour? In what field? I would say the advocate gets the most pay. I mean, even a doctor doesn't get paid as well as an advocate does. In our country, they're getting like some cases like 10,000 rand an hour, I've heard of. And some people, they get that in a day. That's advocates. Okay, but the most important thing is, what is time-based? You get paid for the hours you work, like admin or clerical staff. Piece rate, that is based on the production of each unit. So if you have to pack apples into a box, and you can pack 50 apples into the box, you get paid per box that you've packed. But if you're only packing 10 apples per box, then you get paid less of a rate, because you're not up to standard. Okay, if it's set too low, it could demotivate workers. If it's set too high, it could reduce the incentives. So in other words, they don't really want to work, because they're getting their work for them quite quickly. Okay, so there are advantages and disadvantages of piece rate pay system. It encourages greater effort and faster working. There's the advantage. And the labor cost for each unit is determined in advance. So it helps set up a price right from the beginning for the product that the worker is achieving. The disadvantage is it requires output to be measured and standardized. And in some cases, it's very difficult to do that. Think of a mechanic's work, because sometimes they get stuck on a job because of complications. Could be something welded, broke off, or something like that, and that would then cause them to be disadvantages. May lead to lower quality work, because you just want to get the work done out quickly, and then they rush the work. Workers can settle for a certain pay level, and they're not able to be motivated to achieve more. It produces a security over pay level, for example, in the event of production or breakdown. So what that means is basically they feel that they need to, if there's a break in the production, they can just sit down and not do anything, or will they get involved with the production breakdown and try to fix it? So workers are discouraged from accepting change. Workers don't want to accept change, because they might lose, and they've done something the same way. So basically their potential, don't reach their potential. A salary is also a very common way of paying professionals, supervisors and management staff. Salary level is fixed each year, and then depends on the number of hours worked and the number of units produced. The fixing of the salary of each job is a very important process, because it helps determine the status. So in a lot of IT work, for example, or in a bank, for example, according to your ranking, that's basically where your salary band would be. So the annual income would be paid on a monthly basis, depending on your experience. Okay, so there are advantages and disadvantages of them. So there are different grading system. So the higher you are on your rank, the more money you achieve. Lots of advantages, disadvantages, just go through that quickly. Advantages is security of income, gives status. It also aids to costing of salary, so easier to work out your annual budgets. Suitable for jobs where output is not measured, and suitable for management positions where staff are expected to put in extra time. Even though the task is not complete, they still have to carry on. Disadvantages, income is not relative to effort. So even if you do your job half of the effort, you still get paid. It may lead to complacency, and a regular appraisal might be needed to assess whether the individual should move up on the salary band, and that process tends to become quite laborious and long. Okay, so commissions is also a very common thing in the selling trade. So people just get paid according to how much they sell, for example. That's pretty straightforward. You can go through that on your own. Bonus is a additional payment that you achieve should certain criteria be met, and that's normally paid once a year. But most companies do that, but you could have quarterly bonuses as well. Performance related pay. Okay, performance related pay is a form of bonus payable in addition to the basic salary. Okay, and it is widely used where workers whose output is not measurable in quantitative terms, such as management. Okay, so regular target setting is needed. Annual appraisals of the workers need to be taken into account, and paying each worker a bonus according to the degree of where the targets are being exceeded. So that is performance related pay, not bonuses. Okay, so it's a type of a bonus scheme, but it's in addition to what the basic salary is. Okay, profit sharing is some companies don't only give you a salary, but they also give you shareholding in the business. So bonus of staff is based on profits of the business. So if the business does well, then you get a bonus, or you get paid according to your amount of shares that you get. Fringe benefits, it's a non-cash form of rewards. There are many alternatives that can be used. They can include company car, free insurance, pension scheme, private health insurance, low interest rates, etc., etc. So that's, but what distracts from most people for taking it is that it will be taxed as a fringe benefit, and it means you pay more tax as opposed to the basic tax. And then, of course, this is a chapter all on its own, non-financial methods of motivation. We spoke about job enrichment. We'll go into a bit more depth, but also job enlargement and job rotation. We'll catch that up in the next chapter.